going to be a little bit different from what I normally share. It's going to be less about tips and kitchen hacks and instead focus more on, well, us. Every year I like to take a step back and give a more personal update, a private chat, if you will, about some of the things that you may be curious about as you're watching this journey unfold in real time. Plus, every year since I've had this channel, I've made it a tradition to recap the year and then to share my hopes and dreams for the upcoming year. And it's not because I believe that I'm going to accomplish them all, but it serves more as a North Star. The past year had a lot of just hold on energy for me, so much so that I went without posting for several months. And today I'm finally able to talk about why. And so I want this conversation to feel like you're sitting down with an old friend after life's just gotten busy and you need one of those deep, soul refreshing chats. And so in this conversation, there's likely to be lots of tears, snot, and a stuffy nose. But I've also got some real good laughs and updates that you're only going to get the full version here. And I just want to share that first because I don't know how your day or week has been going. And in a bit, we're going to dive into some heavy topics, although we are going to end on a much lighter note. I don't want to take for granted that you may be newer to my storyline, so here's Cassandra in a nutshell. My husband and I live in Maryland, and the entirety of my career has been in public education, first as a school teacher and then moving into administrative positions. My husband, Trey, is a Navy chief, and he has a little over 2 years left before he retires because, honey, we are going for that full 20 years so he can retire and get a pension. I'm on YouTube specifically within the homesteading niche because I wanted to see how someone with a full-time job with no plans of leaving said job could graft themselves into the homesteading lifestyle. You know, like what would that look like? Essentially going from scratch to operational. And I didn't really see that, so I started sharing, not because I'm an expert, but because I knew I wasn't the only one trying to figure this out. I live a very normal life, just like many of y'all. I work Monday through Friday, and I really appreciate that my professional job and livelihood is totally distinct from YouTube. So my plans have not been, nor will be, YouTube 100%, because I don't want this to start feeling too technical. And that's just Cassandra speaking, but please know that I am very appreciative of those channels that have more formality and a business structure, but I share that because that's the reason why I post about every 8 to 10 days and why I don't have X, Y, and Z even as my channel has grown, because that has always been my guiding light to continue to work full time as we build our homestead dream. And my homestead dream is more about the community that we are going to graft ourselves into rather than the property. And so we're looking for a small homestead that we can manage just within our own family. And we don't need to worry about how we're going to produce everything because we'll have neighbors that we can trade, barter, and buy from. In essence, that is our definition of real social security. So we're looking for a place that allows us to keep enough chickens to have our own meat and egg supply, a few pigs, and a few sheep or goats. Of course, in the ground gardening space and some elbow room. And you know what? You could do all of that just on 2 acres. So if you need something more aspirational than that, that's not me. But you know what? And I wonder if you have picked up on this too, that a lot of the larger homesteading operations that you see here on YouTube have started to become more candid that you can have a thriving homestead on a much smaller scale. And I am so glad that I have that clarity, which has only been obtained by helping others on their homesteads and then being able to gauge what my husband and I's threshold would be to operationalize all of these things. Which is why leveraging your time before you get your homestead is so invaluable so that you're not over leveraging your time, energy, money, or all three. But back to the main storyline. My husband and I have a 9-year-old fur baby, a French bulldog named Thor, who, yep, sleeping back there. We're also on a fertility journey. My family lives in Florida, although we grew up in Western Maryland. And you and I likely first met because of my OCD, obsessive canning delight. Now let's move to a more serious matter. The why behind I went silent back in August. Now please know that as I share this, there will be parts that are glossed over or completely left unspoken because the full story isn't completely mine to share, but you'll still get the gist. You know, in life, you are going to have to play with a curved ball thrown at you from time to time. And it's not a matter of if these things happen, but when. And so this unfolds like most things do, with a phone call. And whenever my mom or dad picks up the phone and the first question they ask is, "Where are you?" followed by, "Are you seated?" I immediately know that someone has passed away. But as I've shared with you before, we've already had so many of friends that were like family from the church that we've grown up in pass away. My last living grandparent passed away several years ago. And so getting that phone call now, I have already anticipated in my mind that it would be one of my parents. And so when my dad said that to me and I replied with yes, that I was seated, I thought that something had happened to my mom. But it wasn't my mom, it was my brother. And my brother is 4 years younger than me. He's 35, and he is an outstanding young man. I mean, when you talk about a sibling as a best friend, it doesn't get any better than him. First, he is super smart, y'all. So even though we are 4 years apart, he was the one to always coach me with math. I had confidence until about middle school, and then it just like stopped clicking. I had a few math teachers that weren't as encouraging. And anyways, like Rob was there. He is the kind of smart where it's just like naturally smart, doesn't have to study. I mean, has an excellent memory for facts and dates, very much like my dad in that regard. Whereas I also did well in school, but it was more so like there was always a discrepancy between English, language arts, social studies, and like my math and science, which is completely different now, like as an adult. But like I had to study. I was the person there with like note cards, writing over, you know, my notes from class, saying things out loud. Like I could get it, but in that kind of way. But Rob was never condescending when helping me, you know, with school or anything like that. And we have talked just all of our adult lives. And he is very much my best friend. Now, does he have a homesteading dream? No, but he gets me, right? He is so supportive as I am with him, that it didn't matter, and I could still talk to him about these things. And I was heartbroken, and so I wanted to know what happened. And my dad shared with me while they were still at the hospital that they had just received news that my brother had had a stroke. And so hearing those words immediately pivots your life in an instant. And they were still in the gathering information stage in terms of impact and all of that. And I, of course, immediately knew that I wanted to head down to Florida. And so I tried to have strength in my voice during the few remaining minutes that we spoke. My dad had to abruptly end the call because a doctor had stepped back into the room. And after the phone call ended, I just broke down and cried and then prayed. Because at this time, I knew something, but I didn't know everything. And your mind, of course, just starts to race. And at this time, my husband was also on a ship. So I had really no way of reaching out to him. I sent him an email, but sometimes he can go, a day or two depending on signals and all that stuff without getting it. And so, I was right back here on the couch, and it was a big change all of a sudden. I did end up hearing from my husband about a day later. He called actually and shared with me that he was able to get special liberty, and that we would be able, after he got off the ship, to drive down with me to Florida. So during this time, as my brother's in the hospital and I'm speaking with mom and dad intermittently throughout the day as they're available, mom starts to share with me, like, Cass, I'm really feeling bad. And she's talking about how agitated her throat is. And so this went on for like a day or two until I finally said, hey mom, go ahead and take a test. You might have COVID. And she did. And her most severe symptom out of all of this, in addition to her fever, was just the painful sore throat that she was experiencing. So at this point, mom is at home quarantining because of course she doesn't want to get dad sick. And I am sending, medicine like throat spray to the house. She did have canned chicken broth and different things like that. I'm also trying to get together affects for Robert's hospital room. I'm printing out pictures to personalize his room. I'm ordering different activity books that he can do, like word searches and a journal. And I'm doing research into questions that I want to ask his medical team. I'm organizing our own kind of binder for the information that I anticipate we'll receive. My husband comes home and we immediately make the trip the next day, and we drive straight through until we get to the hospital. The way that a stroke can impact a person are vast, and for many there is a physical repercussion that happens, but for another large majority it is a cognitive impact that happens. And the type of stroke that my brother had was so severe that when you look up the information on this stroke, there is a less than 10% survival rate. So it is already a miracle that he is still here. Now, prior to our visit down, I had a conversation with my aunt, my dad's sister, who had also had a stroke when she was in her early 50s. And one of the things that Amy had shared with me is she said, Cass, I know that you are just a mess right now, but you cannot walk into that hospital room looking like a hot mess. Your brother isn't registering all of that right now. So here's what I need you to do for me. You're going to go into that room and you're going to be yourself, okay? And of course I knew exactly what she meant. I have seen my parents do this professionally at work. Sometimes, you've got to separate yourself from the representative that you need in that moment. And so y'all, that is exactly what I did when I walked into the room. One of the things that we knew was that my brother's, at least his short-term memory, had been significantly impacted. And so I was printing out pictures that were specifically sequenced from 4 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. I did this all the way back through the past decade or so of pictures. And that's where the conversation we were having was. And that gave me my initial kind of glimpse into some of the impact that the stroke had had on him. Some of you may remember that in May of last year, my entire family came up and my mom wanted to go see The Lion King on Broadway in New York, and we did that. And I'd actually highlighted my brother a number of times during that visit, but he did not recall that trip. And for me in that moment, so much of your own identity is tied in that person knowing your story. When you have someone in your life for that long who knows the story of you, you are downloaded into that person essentially. And so you can just pick up a storyline and keep it moving because they know all of the context, right? That's why, anchoring relationships that you have are just so precious. And I, like, there are stories about me that are so valuable, that mean so much to me. And if you no longer remember them, yes, I know that they happened, but I don't, it was just, ugh, it's so painful. It was so painful. So after that first night, we needed to head back to my parents' house. And of course I wanted to check in on mom. But Trey, actually, on our way down, had started to have a little, tickle in his throat, and it got a little worse. And you know how, men just kind of play that off. And so, because my husband was on a ship, I was like, babe, just to make sure we're okay. Like, I don't know if you are or not, but like, go ahead and take a test. And y'all, Trey tested positive. So yes, now we were down to a team of 2, just Dad and I. And so as you're grieving, you're slammed at the same time too, between, we knew at this point that he would not be going back to work for the next couple of weeks. So there's the short-term disability aspect that you have to, the paperwork and all that stuff, and the case manager that's assigned to you. And then at this point, there was a whole thing, and this is just incredulous. So again, my brother's stroke was more cognitive, but they will dismiss you out of a hospital if you can essentially just like walk and say your name. You're out, even though you have a very serious injury to your brain, and you know that this person is not in any condition to be able to live on their own. Like, they're going to dismiss you from the hospital. And so there was this back and forth with insurance at this time to get him approved for a longer term rehabilitation program where he could be for at least another like 2 weeks. And so when I tell you that that is just another added stressor at this time, of each day kind of wondering where you are on that and what the contingency plans will be, y'all, it just was so much. But we did receive news that he was eligible to go into this follow-up program. And so in transitioning him to this follow-up program, with it just now being Dad and I, we were playing whack-a-mole essentially between someone kind of being at his house, my brother's house, and gathering some of the important documents that we would, need, as well as some of his personal affects, and moving them home, and someone being on the line with short-term, disability, and making sure that we had all of his kind of financial affairs that would be in place, along with someone still being present to speak to the doctors and his care team, to watch the therapies that they had him in, to ask, questions about different things, and to just be present. And that was we were waking up. We could stay at this location, be 24 hours if you were family. And so it had even gotten to a point where, again, Dad and I were tag teaming. We would talk in the morning at like 5:30 in the morning. We would make a game plan for the day to say, okay, I'm gonna go. She was house first to take care of this. You'll be here for this. Okay, yes, Dad. Then I want you to come in here for this. And then maybe I can go and do this and this. Okay, yes. Then we'll all, which was just, like Dad and I be there at the same time, because we didn't want him to not ever have someone there. Well, I've had touch points with the medical system before. This has been my most personal experience. And let me tell you, there's a lot. There's a lot that I will say and not say. But hold on, let me preface it with this. I'm absolutely thankful for modern medicine, and I think in terms of acute care that it is helpful, but in terms of preventing diseases and actually healing, that is not at all what our medical system is doing. And so, y'all, I'm talking even about observations that I saw, and this was at an establishment that is rated, number 1, right? It has those stamps of like rated number 1 in the country for stroke rehabilitation care, and you're like, Like, okay, yes, yes, yes. I see that you have this like beautiful kind of building here. But then also, why is my brother like his menu that they were allowing him to order was nothing but like high sugars and carbs like at this time and sugary drinks and sodas like that's really problematic right now, right? And then also in terms of tests that I would have thought that you would have run that we either kind of had to push for, or maybe wasn't paid for insurance, like those were different kind of questions that you start to have. Perhaps what was being checked on and what wasn't. Very direct questions that I was asking that aren't even like considerations for you. And so while I can absolutely say that I was developing a rapport with his medical team, with his speech and language, pathologist, with his OT, with the nurses that were there. You can't not, because I mean, you're seeing these people kind of like all of the times. And so of course I want to know their names and different things. But the depth of conversation, it's very shallow. And I've been in public education, and so y'all know the reality, right? Like there is a platonic answers sometimes that you are given because of all the legality and red tape around things, and then there are these off the cuff, like, hey, let's talk about this when we're not here. You need to talk to this person, or this is my actual recommendation, right? The conversations that I would have even with Monica, my former neighbor who has 3 boys now, when she was confronting something at their school, and she came to me to ask my advice as an assistant principal, and I said, hey, like, this is the protocol that you should take. These are some questions that you should be asking. Here are some steps that you can take to confirm or verify whether or not like X, Y, and Z is happening, that kind of thing. And so it was crushing to see how limited even the best care looks like for people. And believe me, if you're not being an advocate for your loved one, I mean, the prospects just are so grim at that point. So there was, and this is again me still establishing a rapport and a relationship with the team that was there. I was having a conversation with his speech and language pathologist. We had really kind of hit things off, and I think it is because they saw like, oh, like this family is here. He's not just whatever, like people are here for him, that she had mentioned the name of a program. Because even in this program, it wasn't that he would just kind of stay, right? It then becomes the onus of like the family to figure things out after this. And so she had mentioned, and no one else did that entire time, this one program that there was a chance that his insurance might pay for. And if he didn't, y'all, this program was like $1,000 a day. But it seemed to be exactly what my brother would need, the level of high structure tax that prepares people to re-enter the workforce. Like, you would think that this is a part of the care that you would be receiving since you've been paying into insurance all of this time. No. There are still levels to this thing. And so I'm so glad that I just happened to be there, and we had this one conversation, and she had said, you know what, I haven't had anyone be able to try this because of said like obstacles into getting into the program, but I think that your brother would be a perfect fit for this. So I'm so glad I was there for that, because then I started to research that avenue. One of the things that I'm grateful for is that my parents have prepared my brother and I for these inevitable conditions. And so what we've been able to call this past situation is, we've called it essentially a drill, because I think one of the things that we need to plan for, and yes, while it was a stressful situation dealing with other kind of agencies, we were able to quickly kind of sweep in and make sure that my brother's affairs, were being taken care of, because we've had family conversations around how we pick up the pieces when someone is injured or if someone, passes away. And believe me, y'all, although it's something that you don't want to do, doing that in advance, having those conversations in advance, knowing what accounts are where and all of that is exactly what you want to do, because you don't want that extra weight on you as you're navigating the grief of a situation. So after we had been in Florida for a little bit over a week, and my brother, we were able to get him into, it was like a 3-month full day treatment program. You know, it's just been a series of, one, I had to get back to Maryland because the school year was starting. And I'd applied for FMLA, but was not approved, even though my parents are both older. You know, my dad is 67, my mom is 70. My brother is not married. And, you know, but because I am not his wife or parent, you know, it wasn't approved anyways. And so like that part has, you know, certainly been painful, but there are things that I have found myself being preoccupied with to help from a distance. And this is where it does, you know, I'm so torn. I do wish that my family could be here and closer. And many of y'all know that last year, actually, my parents shared that they started looking for houses up here in Maryland. But y'all, there's tension around, like right now is not the time for that to happen. We have to, you know, get my brother reestablished. As you can imagine, with all of that going on and working, any leisure time that I had typically allocated towards posting videos had to go to understanding how we were going to move forward with getting my brother, you know, back to a baseline of health. I had to get back not only to return to work, but also I had the Home Centers of America conference that I needed to start preparing for. Truly, that gave me I guess I'll use the word distraction. And let me tell you, that conference just holds such a special place in my heart. I loved it even before I was invited to speak there last year. So this year was my second year speaking. So I was very excited to hopefully see some of the faces that I had seen in the previous year and to meet others. And yes, still a bit nervous, but this year I knew it was actually more excitement. And so y'all, during this time, my husband, again, who was attached to a ship, wasn't able to help me out last year. He was able to come down and help me set up and different things like that. And so HOA was the exact same weekend that there was some type of storm that was happening in Florida. And so my dad was actually a little bit nervous to leave the family to come up here. But of course, Dad's like, hey, like, I've done everything here, you know, that I can do in terms of preparing them. Cass, like, you need help. Of course, I'm coming up. So we were able to stay in this Airbnb that was in the mountains. And it just felt like the perfect little escape and tuck away where we both had to be distracted in a sense by HOA, and it wasn't the constant, like, because every day it's like, okay, hospital routine, what are doctors saying, have we taken care of this, okay, now just all of those kind of things, and it kind of broke up that minutia. All right, so on the eve of my presentation, one of my PowerPoints that I designed in Canva, which is the exact same thing I did last year, but for some reason my longer presentation, it's 223 slides. Yikes, I know. But there's lots of like pictures, and it helps me to tell my story the more like visual that I am. And so anyways, this one was giving me some trouble, and it was not, it wouldn't let me submit it as a PDF. And so I've been trying to figure it out all week. And so when I went to the conference area today to set up, I'm so grateful that the tech guy gave me an idea just to screenshot everything in PowerPoint and then download it that way. So it's going to take me a little bit to do this, but that is definitely the best workaround. And that way I just need to put it on a thumb drive, which I've got here, and I'll be good to go, and I don't have to rely on the internet. All right, then I'm going to try to rehearse my presentation. It's crazy because I think there's definitely excitement that's there because I don't feel as nervous as last year-ish. It's hard to put it into words. Okay, let me get back to work. Not bad for a breakfast on the road. Keto parfait and keto pancakes with some bacon. Let's put your tag in real quick. Got that in there. I don't want to slide back off this hill. All right, let's take some photos. All right, y'all, so it is the morning of the conference and I just have to show you this mountaintop view. My nerves are starting to kick in. I will not be able to really eat anything. Like I'll snack a little bit. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Look. Oh my goodness. This is beautiful. Wow. So I also wanted to share, it is just so peaceful. The air is so crisp. Not just because it's a fall morning, but because of the altitude. It was such a joy to see everyone at HOA, and for a moment I wasn't cloaked in the heaviness of my brother's condition because I fully wanted to be present with what was happening in real time at the conference. And I don't have lots of footage because it was just Dad and I, so I'll share what I have. But being at HOA, y'all, it just did me so well. I had set up my little booth to kind of mimic the look of my house. I think I have some footage of that I'll definitely share with you. But I just, for a moment, it was nice where people didn't know, at that moment. And so I didn't have to have that that conversation. But so I spoke on 2 days. So one was about like small space gardening and how you can, start doing homesteading skills in a small space. What I share here, but really I could be a bit more kind of technical. And you know what I did this year? So what I did this year is I actually did a live quail dispatch demonstration. So I brought down 5 birds and I was like, hey, raise your hands if you want to try this thing. Like, let's do this together, like during my presentation time. And there were 5 ladies that like actually came up in real time and I guided them through the process and they took, their birds home. And that was just so awesome. I was a little bit nervous to do that, but I was like, no, you're here. And I remember, if you don't have the opportunity to like dispatch something and you really want to, it's hard to find those opportunities. One, you're gonna have to pay for them. And I was like, hey, you've already got your HOA ticket. Like, if you're willing to, like, I am more than happy to kind of show you this. And 2, you don't want to do it by yourself, right? You want to do it with someone. I am so proud of each of those ladies that came up. So that presentation went awesome. I was also able to give away 2 greenstock planters as a part of that presentation. Greenstock is just awesome, y'all. I'm an affiliate like anyone else. Like, there's nothing special happening, with me. But I appreciate that the Peterson family, when I reached out to them to say, hey, I'm speaking here, I would love to be able, since these planters are awesome, I would love to be able to have folks like, walk away with a planter. And so they shipped me 2, and then all I have to do is just, toss them in the back of the truck and, haul them down. And so 2 people walked away with planters, and I get so excited because it's like I want it to be actionable and put tools in at least a few folks' hands. Another thing that kind of stands out, and y'all, when we meet in person, I'm such a talker. Because like we're each speaking each other's language and like you actually know a lot about me and like it's just I love hearing about like you because it's awesome. So I had these back to back conversations with people from the time like HOA opens to like the very like end of the day. But in another presentation, something that was super just touching is this is where I was talking about like food preservation and meal prep. And so again, in my presentations, I just like to like put tools in the hands of people. So if I talk about these things, I want you to have them. So I like to give away like my food scrap thing that I talk about like all the time. I gave away a couple of like worm composters. Now this is from, you know, my earnings here on becoming a farm girl. And it's like, well, like, why not, you know? So I thank you all that I'm able to do that. I'm not exactly sure like how I framed it in my presentation, but I said something to the effect of like, okay, raise your hand if you were like, hey Cassandra, I really want to get into canning, but the obstacle is that I just don't have a pressure canner. And of course, like there were some folks that raised their hands. And so I was able to, like, it's a blur when you're presenting. I see individual faces, but then also like the excitement of it all and like remembering what I want to say and the slides. And like my presentations feel very much kind of like this too. A little bit more organized for sure, but it's me just presenting. And so I gave the, there's actually a mom who was pointing to like a younger guy, like probably like in his 20s. And he was sitting next to a female who was also probably around that age. And so I gave it to them. She just like caught my eye like at that moment. And I was like walking through the aisle. So they got the electric canner. And then I said the same thing for someone else. And I said, well, like also like, is there anyone else who's like, you know what, Cass, I would actually be ready to take on pressure canning on a stovetop. And there was an older lady on my right-hand side. So I at least got like, you know, both sides of the aisle. I knew I wanted to do that. And she also caught my eye and like her hand wasn't fully raised, but it was like kind of like this, but like we just made eye contact. And so like I gave the pressure canner to her. And I mean, I also like gave away green stalks and stuff like that last year. And so here's what was so crazy. This was like so super touching. So the lady, both of them later on, right, came back, they came to my tent, and the couple, or the couple that I had given the electric pressure canner to, that was her son-in-law, and she knew that they were about to get engaged that very same day. And she was like, you have given them their first housewarming gift to start like their new life together. And that just sent chills down my spine because one, that was so awesome because, that just made me feel so good. But then y'all, and this is crazy. So the lady that I gave the stovetop pressure canner to, at the end of that presentation, she stood in line and she had given me a hug. And this line was like kind of long, which is why I think the other lady came back a little bit later to my tent. But she stood in line and she had tears down her face. And she was like, Cassandra, you don't know how much this means to me. And I said, one, I'm so happy that you feel this way. That like this was exactly like what my intention was in giving this canner to someone. And that was just so touching because I know how much canning has meant to me personally, right? And especially as I shared with you all in a previous video, I've done a lot of canning for my mom who does have this condition where there's a number of foods that she cannot eat, but pressure canning and cooked foods makes them available to her, and how you can start to like really take control of your budget and stock up on your food supply and all of these different things. It is a powerful tool that allows you to own the means of production. And so I was already so overwhelmed that she showed, I was already so overwhelmed that she shared how much, this meant to her, and that she had shared that she had been watching my channel, for a while. But then she comes back later on, and y'all, do you see these earrings? Do you see them? She comes back to my tent. Oh, here's the bag. So I was so booked at my tent, like I was having constant conversations with the folks that I barely even got a chance to walk around. And as I was walking around, I would run into other people and start yapping my mouth again, which I love. But I didn't even get a chance to like see a lot of the vendors that were there. But she comes back from this vendor and she's like, I got something for you. And I immediately thought like, no, this isn't like an exchange. Like that is just yours. Like what? And I pull out these earrings, which was just so touching to me because like I am just such like a sucker for like the mementos. The tokens were like someone like really kind of knows you, because I think I've really only shared it once, but I'm certain I've only shared this once in one video, which is, you're like, wow, like, I don't know, like there are lots of people out there that are really following like your journey and listening to you ramble, girl, even though you're crazy. But I love earrings. I love earrings. I will always wear them. I will be without makeup, but I need my danglies. And she got these for me, and I do not have a pair of, I have seen these earrings before, but I do not have them. I already have a collection of earrings that is fairly large and will only continue to grow, but they're very sentimental earrings. I don't have expensive jewelry. That doesn't call to me. It doesn't call to me. If it's handmade, if it's quirky, if it's like artistic, I love those pieces, right? And then she had also, like, 4 Jars was having, like, sometimes vendors that are there will have like just really good deals. And so I had also seen that she had like her canning lids and rings, and she's like, I am now on my way. And I had hoped to be able to get into canning, and y'all, she meant so much to me. She meant so much to me. My dad and I will forever, like, that is a story that we walked away with, just meeting her, in addition to so many people. But those are the kind of interactions that I have at HOA. There was another lady who gave me this heartfelt gemstone, and I have it, it's upstairs in my office. I'm gonna show it to you, but she gave me this heartfelt gemstone, and she's like, I am praying for you and the family that I know that you're going to have. And like, HOA is just full of awesome people. It's just awesome people there. If you have not gone to that homesteading conference, oh my goodness, you have got to go. You've absolutely got to go. I treasure the time. And if you stop on my booth, thank you so much, because my dad and I were just so fortified during that time. You all pulled us out of a place and gave us a very positive memory that we needed to have in the midst of a situation that had been very hard. So thank you. So I don't know if you remember, but last year after HOA, when both mom and dad were up, we kind of did a celebratory trip by taking the Western Maryland scenic train ride. And it was beautiful, and it was such a great, experience after, the hustle, bustle, and busyness of HOA. But this year, just with what we had going on, Dad's trip up here was very tactical. I mean, he flew in, I think on that Wednesday. We were down to Virginia by that Thursday. The conference is Friday and Saturday. And then by Sunday, like Sunday midday, we had just enough time to like wake up, and then we went on a quick little hike because we like doing that together. Your heart rate, Dad?
127.
127.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Whew.
What's your heart rate, Booba? We're like amateur hikers. And then I had to drop him back off at the airport. But we had been long overdue, it felt like, or it's still important, even in seasons that are trying to have a deposit where we could be just a little bit more present and things weren't so like as intense. And so my dad's birthday is in October, and I told myself, and it matched up with like my work schedule, where it was like a professional development day for students, so they wouldn't be in the building. And so I was like, you know what, I think I can do like a turn and burn, and we can celebrate, Dad's birthday, which is something that I haven't been with him on his birthday in like 2 years. And so I made a surprise visit to see mom and dad, to see my brother, and you know what? It was exactly what we needed. Happy birthday, Dad!
How you doing, sweetheart?
Good. How are you?
I was trying to figure out why you ain't called me yet today.
Yes, I've been on the road, sir.
You been on the what?
I've been on the road. Look at my new ride. Just kidding.
You did not drive down. No, you didn't drive down.
I did.
Huh?
I did.
You did not drive down here.
Yes, I did.
Where's the store?
In the back seat.
You did not drive down here, Cassie.
Yes, I did.
You're gonna call me by 8 o'clock.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yes.
So I didn't get a phone call.
Yep.
So what did I do? I say, okay, let me see what's going on here. So I look at your camera and I see last night you bringing Thor back into the house.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking and your car is still sitting there. And I look and it's like a teacher planning day or something. The students are off.
Yep.
So I went, what is she doing taking off? She's supposed to be at work today and stuff. And Trey's got the truck.
Yep.
And as late as maybe a half hour ago,
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on here? Her car is still sitting there.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, if I don't get a phone call
Yeah.
within the next hour,
Yeah.
I'm going to call Stan and Sheila and tell them to go next door.
Oh my
So
god.
you were very close, okay, to them going, I don't know where she is.
Wow. Oh man,
Yeah.
Dad, I cover my tracks real good. Speaking of you got me, I had to get this for becoming a farm girl's best employee.
Uh-oh.
I went to the Amish market. You know they're only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Hey,
That was the last thing there,
Florida,
Dad.
the Florida-Georgia game is
Yeah.
Saturday.
Oh,
So, yeah.
perfect. And
I was trying to figure out where we're going to get us some good old turkey legs.
oh, see, I got you. Here's some bacon. I want that for the family. I picked that up, some really good turkey bacon. Yeah. Oh, look! One of the chickens that I just harvested.
4-pounder?
Yeah, and that was a smaller one, Dad.
Wow, look at them drumsticks.
Yeah, like I got the smaller birds because then they barely fit in my cast iron.
Right.
So I've learned to just get the smaller ones.
Does
Yeah.
Robert know you here?
No, he doesn't. Well, he may. He knows I'm coming down for your birthday.
Sure, yeah.
Apple for Mom.
Mm.
And we're just gonna hang out, Dad. I don't have an agenda. Thank you.
Should I blow it out?
Yep.
Do I tell what I
Happy
wish
birthday,
for?
Dad. If you want to.
I wish that we can have many, many, many more of these get-togethers. Roll back your boat and let your arrow flow straight to
My love is hot for me. Nobody believes. And let your arrow flow straight to my love is hot for me. Nobody believes. Okay, Dad, who's singing this? First name.
King Freddie Jackson.
No. HOA was in October and then there was November. And by the time November hit, what I can say is that, I mean, there are different stages of whenever you're experiencing a sudden change, especially around a health crisis, that you're gonna go and maneuver through. And the first is just shock, and then it's confusion, and then it could be anger, and then it could be a kind of like a more grounding and like knowledge building kind of phase. And then I think there was a shift that happened a bit for me of acceptance. And I say this because so much of your normal pattern of living changes suddenly and all at once. I'm so thankful that my brother has made so many strides, and it's to a point where we know that there is still a road to recovery that is going to happen. But we are very optimistic about what that plan looks like for him moving forward. And we're just so incredibly grateful and thankful that we are coming out of that experience fortified. And so one of the things is that I was essentially seeing my folks every single month since August. And so there's been like a lot of travel and back and forth. And we all wanted to get together for Thanksgiving. And we said, you know what? Rather than having us go all the way down to Florida or my parents come, all the way up here, that we would just meet in North Carolina, which is where we had visited this past summer. Well, just my parents and I, and we went to go see the Biltmore in Asheville. But of course, returning to Asheville, that had been just devastated by Hurricane Helene. And I'll show you some of that.
All this down here. All this down here and stuff just destroyed.
Oh my gosh.
You can see it, businesses and stuff. You can see it. Look at that business.
Whoa.
There.
Yeah.
Look at that. Carpet City.
Oh my gosh.
All this, yeah. You can see a car still up under there.
Turn left onto
Yeah.
This is just...
All this over here as well, just destroyed. Look at all that, all the way back up in there. All the way back over there, over here. It's just everywhere you look, it's just, you got cars up in trees.
at the light. Turn left.
And then you get right here, and it's like, it over there is still destroyed, as you can see. Over there is still destroyed.
My dad was saying, because this was we kind of like were in this mountain when we were at HOA, and then we'd already been in the mountains, the Black Mountains for Asheville earlier in the year during the summer, and then we were going again. That's symbolically that this has been just like the year of mountains for us. And so yeah, we just got an Airbnb, and one thing that was important to me is I wanted to cook all of our Thanksgiving food. I wanted to make sure that was more of the ketogenic diet for my brother. And y'all, he is down like 35 pounds, which is awesome. And yeah, we just all got together. So a lot of the food that you saw me cook in October's pantry chat, it was in tin foil, which I do not use because I was transporting that food. And then I also made my family, took like 6 cooler bags of other meals that were frozen food meals that I was sneaking in, like, you know, like nutritional yeast and all these like extra herbs and stuff like into those meals for my family, because mom and dad have just been so busy, you know, taking him here to these appointments and doing this and doing that, that I just wanted to like alleviate like the meals for them. And so it was literally like, I brought those frozen foods, we kept them in the freezer while we were at this Airbnb, and then they took the food back with them.
Most gracious Father God in heaven, we come before you, Lord God, with praise and thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, Lord God, for giving us this opportunity, Lord, to be together, for life, health, and strength, and for your meaningful blessings that you bestow.
Hey, I got a whole other tray for macaroni and chicken. This is mine.
There is another tray, baby.
I am playing. There's no way. I would be constipated.
Short conversation! Is that crickets?
You did attend the wedding, though.
Now he's agreeing with me. It's okay now. He's like, the rest of y'all ain't coming? No?
Thor come.
Gonna go ahead and jump in.
2 minutes after you get in there, you're like, oh, I'm not getting out of here. It is nice in there. Robert, it's nice.
Best Thanksgiving ever. Just like enjoy. noise of you. Thor, don't get too adventuresome. Ah. Oh, yeah, Dad. We're back at the Biltmore.
One more time.
We
Who
have
would have thought we would be at the Biltmore twice in 1 year?
twice in 1 year.
In less than 6 months.
Yeah, but now we have Rob and Trey with us.
Yeah. The whole gang is here now.
The whole gang.
Dog with us.
Yes. The largest house in America.
That is.
The Biltmore. The reds are phenomenal, as are the whites. And it's hard to convince you sometimes with those. But they're complex, they're fruitful.
Hey, this reminds me of Charlottesville days.
It's totally Charlottesville days.
Throw it in the bag.
Well, in other news, y'all, this November marked my 1 year anniversary of becoming a hunter. That's right, for those of y'all who may have missed it, you are staring at a woman who has taken from scratch cooking to the nth degree. So many years ago at this point, when I realized that I wanted to in fact have our own homestead so that we could start to produce our own meat. And that meant that I would need to start having butchering experience, but at this point, I didn't know anyone or how to connect with an experience like that. I realized that the one thing that I could at least do is start working with whole parts of animals that I could source at the grocery store, right? So I stopped buying, the pre-cut packaged legs and thighs and all that stuff because, honey, that is not how it's going to be coming to me on a farm. But I would start purchasing like the whole bird or bigger cuts at the store and learning how to break down my own meat because, again, essentially, that is how it'll be coming to me on my farm. And another thing that I started to do is to make my own broths with chicken feet, or sometimes they're called like chicken paws at the store. So I had never touched a chicken foot in my life. And honestly, it's not that big of a deal. It's just fattier, and yes, there are nails. So this is how I started to structure routines in my kitchen so that they could more closely align to what my homestead kitchen will look like. And this is also what led me to more regularly cooking with hearts and livers because, again, these are products that I am going to have available to me on my homestead. Stick with me because, yes, I am still talking about hunting. So, from doing all that and buying whole parts of animals at the grocery store to then, on a whim, now 2 years ago, I reached out to the lady at my farmer's market who sold her quail eggs there. And I called her to say, hey, I'm interested in raising quail, but I still have a couple of questions around this and that. If in exchange, you could kind of teach me the ropes of what I need to do to start, raising quail. And she answered yes, and she ended up only being like 7 minutes away from me. So, we live super close. And so through that process, I learned how to care for quail and also how to dispatch them under her guidance. So I had my first experience ever dispatching chickens with Crystal. And then later on that year, she also raises her own turkeys for, her and her family. And we did that as well. And so I was being exposed to and developing a skill because believe me, here's what happens. Once somebody knows that you know how to dispatch birds, goodness, like anytime like somebody's getting ready to do something on their farm, it's like, hey, invite so-and-so over. It's great. And so I really was becoming adept at learning what animal parts kind of look like, how to make the most precise, cuts, all these different things that go into harvesting your own meat. So all of that is to say is that hunting did not come out of left field for me because think about it. The buzzword now is that everyone wants regeneratively raised meat, and a part of that actually is being able to hunt. I'm not sure why that isn't a bigger part of the conversation. So here's kind of what also happened. So also 2 years ago, there's a show that I love to watch. It's on MPT, which is our public, we don't have cable, but it comes on over the airways. It's with Joanne Clendenning and it's called Maryland Farm and Harvest. And it just shows It debuts like the local farms across, the state of Maryland. And so there was a plug during the show for, it's actually a national-wide program called Becoming an Outdoor Woman. And what it is, it's offerings throughout the year across a number of outdoor life skills that's specifically geared towards women. And one of them was a hunting mentorship program. And so I had my laptop as I was watching the show, and I went online and like I filled out the little application, and then it was radio silent for like an entire year. So much to the point where I thought, okay, like I'm never gonna hear back, whatever, I don't know why. But I did hear back from them, and I got in the program last November. And y'all, I'm telling you, it's like I found my tribe. And I say this because it shocked even me, but it is true. Y'all, I took naturally to a rifle. I mean, I am a good like 40 to 50 yard shooter with a long arm. Oh my goodness, just a shotgun in my hand. Oh, it just feels so right. Anyways, so yeah, it's really cool because it's a mix of people that are paired with, you're assigned like one particular mentor, but essentially all of the mentors can be your mentor, because sometimes like schedulings, if you're going out for a hunt, it doesn't work with your own personal mentor, but somebody else is going out there, so they'll like kind of take you under their wing, like that kind of thing. And so last year I had gone out a couple of times, and I finally settled on a Mossberg 500 for my shotgun, but you can't use that all year long because like different seasons you have to shoot with like, different things or whatever. And a lot of things, like I don't have everything that you need. I'm still relying on my mentor for some of those things, but I've been able to glean lots of like what I wear from the thrift store, like in the off season or Facebook Marketplace. And I like that I got the Mossberg 500 because that gives me the most options for like the largest percentage of the year. But I will say this, y'all. My first season out, everyone wants to know, like, did you get a buck? Did you get a doe? And some of the people in the cohort, they were like on their first and second hunts, but not me. Not me either. I didn't have like a good shot, or like we went out and it was just nothing. And in terms of like, did I bag something? It was definitely a beautiful experience for me, just being like in the woods. And this is really where I started recognizing that I need to start foraging more. And I have a video that I kind of posted, but it was my mentor really being, she's just so keen on, do you notice this? This is how I know that there's been like activity in this area, and it's probably this animal because they, eat this. Are you noticing these footprints that are here? So-and-so, like they tend to eat this, but not that. That's this herb. That's mullein growing. That's this. And I'm like, wait. Like, it's interesting because it kind of reminds me when I first started like growing food, right? You know what it looks like at the grocery store, but I now can identify what a pepper looks like based off of pepper leaves, which look very different than tomato leaves, right? And I started to realize like, oh my goodness, I know the dried form of herbs, but if I were to see this like in the wild, like I would walk right by it and not even know. And so I was gaining knowledge and skills as a hunter in that kind of area. But anyways, I say all that because, yeah, it seemed like, half of the, like so many of my other friends and, that were going out with their mentors were, getting, oh my goodness, I just shot my first doe. And like, here I am like, nope, still nothing, no updates. And you kind of feel like, well, like I did when I was younger, complaining to my dad, when is it gonna be my turn? I'm never gonna get married. And he's like, oh, you're fine, don't worry about it, it's gonna happen. Right? Like that's how my mentor was. And y'all, this year, my luck changed. We will be hunting in a blind, so there is that saving grace this morning. Because it's so cold, and I think she's bringing some type of like portable little heater, but I am so excited. So here in Maryland, our doe population is explosive. And what some of the parks and the outdoor centers are starting to do is to invite hunters to their acreage when they're closed so that they can hunt. And over what would be my Christmas break from work, there was a nature center. If you're in Maryland, it's the Irvine Nature Center, where they were inviting hunters. We could go at any time across a period of like almost a week and a half and hunt on the property. And they actually already had blinds that were set up, which is pretty much like a tent that you're inside of. And ideally you do want to have a blind that has been set up in a particular location for a couple of days so that when the deer see it, they're like, oh yeah, that thing has been there for a couple of days, versus you going into the forest, you know, early that morning and setting up. They would be kind of leery, like, oh, I don't know about that. So that's exactly what they had arranged. And so for this particular hunt, you had to go with your mentor, of course. And then this ideally made a lot of sense for me because this was muzzleloader season. And so I don't have, you know, that. And I'm not going to, you know, anytime soon because, I mean, hunting is going to be an investment. I'm not going crazy. Some hunters, I mean, they have such a beautiful collection that's been built over time and they really get like the premium stuff. I just need like whatever the basics, you know, kind of are. And I'm sticking to just hunting deer, turkey. I really, that's it, like for me. Maybe hog, but we'll see. And the weather was going to be absolutely perfect because here in Maryland and well, really across the entire country, we were going through that Arctic kind of winds. And so the high on the particular day that we were first gonna head out, which was going to be the 23rd, the high was only something like 25 degrees, y'all. And so, yeah, when my mentor was like, hey, Sandra, do you want to go? I was like, yep, let's do this. So first, I will say that I absolutely loved hunting in a field, which is where we were. It was, I know that I have shots to share here, but it's just like the morning dew, it was, just stunningly gorgeous out there. I mean, when you think about the agricultural paintings that were happening, you know, in centuries past, like, you get why these bucolic scenes were painted because they are just that beautiful and it doesn't translate through like your cell phone camera for some reason. So anyways, it was maybe around like right before it went dark. So we're still maybe talking about 5 o'clock, which is where ideally you'd start to have like a bit more movement before the deer start to bed back down. And I honestly was thinking to myself, like, okay, it's not gonna happen this time. Like, oh, but then out of nowhere, so my mentor had stepped out because she had to like go to the bathroom. She's like, I'm so sorry, I've been holding it, like I've gotta go. So she steps out, and while she's out of the tent, this is where this doe out of the corner, right? Like the wind is blowing great. So like she hasn't picked up like on our scent. Like, it's like there's nothing. I had even taken like, I had dozed off for like 30 minutes. When I woke up, I was like, oh, Faye, I'm so sorry. She's like, you're fine. Like, that's what hunters do. You're fine. And so, like, because you're just scanning. And it was so difficult because across the field, it was a sorghum field. And like the color of their coats match like spot on, especially if they're little. You would never even see them. But on to my right, one is coming from off of the trail, and y'all, like, there's this excitement that's like, oh my goodness. And she just kind of like was moseying on, you know, on in. And y'all, I just picked up the muzzle loader and I fired my shot.
This is gonna be burned in my memory forever. I'm shaking with adrenaline. I just shot my first doe.
Inside in case the boy deer come.
Okay. I just did it.
I'm gonna get you reloaded.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Wow.
Thought it was gonna be small.
Wow. I mean, because we've seen smaller ones. And I was okay with that.
So this is usually how you take the photo.
Oh.
The gun. Oh. You shot her in the neck.
Oh.
Looks like.
unless, no, she was facing that way. So yeah, it went in here and through her lungs on the other side. So,
Okay.
but here, you can get behind her.
Oh, wow.
Go through her sternum a little bit. And this is where I need my actual good knife. Whoa. So that's the lungs. And you punctured this one.
Yep, I see it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
And you just kind of roll this out. Sometimes it gets a little caught. In which case you'll have to grab the knife again.
I mean, I'm gonna say this just because it's how you feel. I feel like a hunter now. I do. And so my mentor was like, you've been a hunter this entire time. I was like, I know. So yeah, after we field dressed everything, my dad and husband were calling me nonstop because I always cascade like my hunting plan. And like, I'm like, hey, like I'm out in the field, like this is what's happening, like you'll hear from me. And I'm really good about following up. And when they hadn't heard from me at my usual time, they started like pinging me, but like I couldn't pick up because so much was going on. All right, y'all. So this is my breakfast this morning. I wanted to try some of the liver last night, but I was just running off of adrenaline and I was so excited and exhausted at the same time. And so as I was plating this up, I again was getting a little emotional because I'm just so appreciative of how this meal got to my plate. And even the fact that I can say that I'm about to eat liver from an animal that I just harvested from the wild. And I'm just so appreciative. So I grew up eating liver, and so this isn't like, the taste will be, I'm trying to see, I've never had liver this fresh, obviously. And so I'm trying to discern if there may be a little bit of a taste difference. My mentor V was telling me that she likes to eat her liver within the first 24 hours. And so this is some of the liver. Usually what I do, y'all, and what I'll do after this, actually, I'll eat this like this, but then I will put like liver with some fried onions, with some of the runny yolk from the egg. Y'all, that's just how I love it. All right, so let's go ahead and taste test. Smells, maybe the aromatics are slightly different because it is from a deer. Okay, yeah, it's liver. So again, it's a taste that I am very much accustomed to. However, I know that this liver is super fresh. It's really good. There's like a back end part where maybe I could distinguish it to be like, oh, this is venison. But it's really good. So I normally do this, and then, oops, can you see me? Here's what I'm doing with my plate. So I'll take some of the liver, I'll put the onions on there, scoop up a bit of my runny yolk. Oh gosh, come on, get on here. Oh, there we go. And I just put the whole thing in my mouth. Like, that's how you have to do it. You have to have like the multiple flavors going on. Okay, and this is the heart. The heart is really good. It has that like steak cut texture to it. Well, good morning, y'all, or should I say Merry Christmas, and welcome to the space underneath of my deck where I've had my dough hanging since, I guess we wrapped everything up at around 10 o'clock last night. So I am on a time crunch this morning between butchering my dough. I think I can probably get started because I know I'm going to be painfully slow. And then I've also got to get Christmas dinner on the table because I was not anticipating doing this. I mean, I was and I wasn't kind of thing. So in case you were wondering how I'm doing this, I'm going to be texting my mentor this morning, just with the timing of it being Christmas and all. She's not able to come over, which is fine, but I am literally, she sent me some good like YouTube videos. So that's what I'm gonna be using. I'm gonna prop my phone up on my composter over here, and I'm just gonna take my time. Now this is actually the part of the process as a hunter that I believe that I'm going to enjoy the most. I love just like harvesting meat and like doing all of this. I don't know, it's just, it feels like it's my jam, even though I haven't tried this before. So I'm just gonna give myself plenty of grace. Your first time isn't perfect. There's muscle memory that kind of builds up over time. But I cannot imagine, like, this is the best way to wake up as an adult Christmas morning. I'm still so just like, I fell asleep so easy and fast last night. And I woke up with such excitement this morning to do this, so.
I prefer processing a deer with the rear end up, hung by the back legs. I find that's much easier and cleaner.
Okay, so I think I just removed all of the skin around the anus. All right, y'all, so this is what I've got so far. I've just cut around here and here, and the next are gonna follow between the brown and the white and connect it to the anus. And this is what will allow me to hopefully just like pull it off in a sleeve motions. I did it. Okay. This is what we got. Oh gosh. I still have the tail attached. I did not do this part right. This isn't right, but okay. Guess what I got? I'm excited, but also like, huh? The neck, actually, the neck. So I was going for this area, but I was like, yeah, I didn't think when I was looking through my scope that that's what I did, but that's why it dropped immediately. I can get ready to show you the puncture. Yeah.
That's pretty clean.
I could have done a lot better, only because I'm comparing myself to like how I am with chickens and turkeys. You know, like I did puncture the meat a couple of places, Dad, because you just have to like, now that I kind of know by feel once I'm in there, I'll keep improving, of course, but the me that has done this with smaller animals is like, no, I nicked it, I punctured it. It's okay, Cass. I keep telling myself, like, it's okay. You just.
What are you gonna do with all that meat today?
So I'm just going to break it down. I have got to get ready to stop and go in because now I need to cook dinner because Uncle Gary's coming over today. So I have like, I got up, I was like, go, morning goal, get your hide off, cook, come back out.
So you got enough room in your freezer to put that whole deer?
Oh yeah, that's actually why. Remember all the things that I cooked for you and Mom? All those meals?
Oh, okay.
I pretty much cleared my freezer out.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was like,
Yeah.
oh God, where's you gonna put
put all of the meat.
Exactly. And then I'm gonna take this to the tannery.
Yeah.
It's my first, so yeah.
Have Stan them saw it yet?
No, I don't think I want them to.
Why not?
I don't think it's allowed for like the HOA. That's why I have it on this side. I have it covered. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's why I'm on a clock too, Dad. Right?
Okay.
I've got to get this done. Yeah, and especially Monica. I did show Monica and Kevin. They were super excited. I know that they won't mind, but I'm like, you know. Yeah. Okay, y'all. So it is a few. Oops, not there. Not there. Okay, maybe. Let's do over here. My backyard isn't exactly flat and this concrete slopes. So it is a few hours later, not a few hours later, it's now almost 7 o'clock. You hear Thor in the background. And so I went in, I cooked the whole shebang for Christmas dinner. My uncle came over, we all had a good time. And now I need to get back to breaking down my meat, which I'm gonna go ahead and do. It's perfect weather. I think it's like 35 degrees. Yeah, it's like 35 degrees right now. And so, yeah, let's get back to it.
You're gonna have to work your knife around the pelvic bone in the back. There are gonna be some weird angles here. Just try to find that bone and cut around it.
Smells really good.
It's gonna be right in here.
Y'all, I have so much meat. So much so that I haven't even been able to, I mean, by the time I got through harvesting her, cooking Christmas dinner, and of course, there's other meals that I'd already been planning on kind of eating and everything else, I have not even had a chance to eat any of it. A lot of it I'm going to, not a lot, but some I'm saving for my dad so he can go ahead and make jerky. And then some I do want to take back out and pressure can. Some I want to go ahead and start making meals with. But I am so proud of my basement freezer right now because in addition to having several like lamb leg roast, other, meats that I've been able to get on sale, a couple of hams, and now my deer, my basement freezer does not look shabby at all. Oh my goodness. Like, I'm still living off the high of all of that. So yeah, your girl got her first dough. All right, y'all, so I do have a couple more topics that I want to quickly run through, not as in-depth as the primary stories that I've shared, but just anticipating what the year ahead will hopefully hold in store. So one of the things that I need to talk about is an update on, I'm gonna combine these two categories, work and fertility. And so, as many of you know, I have been an assistant principal for the past 10 years. Previous to that, I was a professional development coordinator and a special education self-contained teacher for several years, and then a general education teacher at the elementary level. But one of the things, and I talked about this in depth in another video, is as I really kind of focus on factors that may be influencing my chances of fertility. There's a lot that we have tried and have done, but at my family's kind of prodding around different things, and to the point where I couldn't ignore it either, I wanted to try, for right now, just pausing on the demanding schedule that has been my career as an assistant principal. The hours and the work schedule that come with the role is a lot. And certainly there is a part of me that prides myself on having a good work ethic and wanting to excel at any job, that I perform. However, I cannot deny the fact that, you know, as an administrator in a school building, that often means that I have started checking in with my administrative team and emails and parent complaints hours before I enter the building, and not leaving work until 6:30 or 7 on an average. It's a 12-month schedule, and it may not be the best conditions for someone that needs to have their body to just be in their mind at a state of less kind of low grade chronic stress. So it's not anything that's always one particular issue, although work is work. You know what I mean? Work is work, it's not play. But there are things where I may need to take a step back, and I'm ready to do that. And so I actually have done that. So that has been in the works. I transitioned from my role as AP to a much smaller school, because I was working in schools that had 800 kids or more, pre-K through 8th grade, where there's one principal and just 2 APs. So most of the time I would just have the elementary wheelhouse. But I've transitioned to a smaller school, and it took me a while, because you just don't want to land anywhere or at any kind of particular school, where I was supporting the principal there, because I do have administrative experience, but also shifting into a literacy coach kind of role. So I am spearheading the school's professional development, informally coaching and observing teachers, that kind of thing. And I am no longer, I'm still a part of the leadership, but it's not in an administrative capacity, meaning there's much more kind of flexibility in my schedule, and I will be able to be on a 10-month schedule, meaning that I'll have the summers off, which really just coincides very nicely now with more time that I can spend with my family. I'm now even able to, through the insurance that I get from my job, because honestly, y'all, in some aspects, the insurance that I have through my district is better than some of the offerings that we get through my husband's military insurance. But I've been able to do acupuncture these past couple of, maybe it's just been 2 months now. Yeah, 2 months. And that has been amazing, because my body, from all of the stress, really locked up on me in a way that I was having chronic pain in my back and in my neck. And I just, like, that is gone, you know, now. And I attribute that to my weekly sessions that I'm having, that are paid for through, like, there's no copay or anything, luckily. Anyways, I say all that to say that it has not even been a conversation that I, or like the road that we were going down just immediately paused, because everything shifted to my brother. And so I am hoping to get back on track with the adoption process, also not giving up on, you know, my body and our journey, and IUI. And so I'm also at a place of acceptance of however things kind of turn out, and there's still time for everything, you know. There's still time. There's still time. This year I will be turning 40, but my aunt also had her child at 40, and lots of other women too, y'all. My husband and I are still terribly excited about the family that we will have one day soon. We just had a little play action here with life. And we're getting back on track, and yeah, so I mean, stay tuned. Stay tuned. I also have lots more to share this year on my herbalism journey, because again, this was an aspect. I've already been on the road to becoming, in my mind, just to have a basic knowledge of herbs, to treat my own kind of family, common, you know, household colds and, you know, injuries and like those kinds of things can all be done medicinally with herbs. And I think I have 2 videos that have been very well received if you're truly a beginner. I am not trying to get you know, like credentialed in any way. Like I don't think that I need to like go through an entire course at this moment. I think down the road for sure, for my own personal knowledge and benefit, but there's a lot that you can do with herbs with their nutritive value. Learning how to like forage them, which really offsets the cost of them. And there are so many different herbs that are right here in my bioregion, which I have enjoyed like learning about, and I can't wait until like it's spring and like they start emerging again. And so I still have lots of footage. That was footage that I was taking this past summer, but again, after things kind of fell apart, I couldn't put it together. So I think stay tuned, because you're going to be very excited about what I have to share on my herbal journey, because there's so many different things that I'm doing and sharing with not only in our household, but for my parents and for my neighbors. What else did I have to talk about here? Oh, so one thing that I also want to try to get into is, and I don't have a plan, like as we speak in this moment, I don't exactly know how this is going to happen, but I know of different ways that I could get experience in this, is building and fixing things. So one of the things that my husband and I enjoy is on Saturday mornings, we will watch the MPT show This Old House together, because it's actually Trey's dream to have a wood shop on our homestead one day. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm ready to tear down walls tomorrow, but I have done things like caulking and fixing, light fixtures and painting rooms, like things in that vicinity. And each of those things builds confidence and a better understanding of your home itself. And with the possibility of purchasing a home that may need some love, I want to be ready. Not necessarily that I'm going to do all of the renovations myself, but to at least be informed enough when I'm hiring help. And one of the sticking points that I think is so apparent between my parents' generation, the boomers, and then mine, millennials, is that we are losing skills that we just knew how to do, and truly they are not outdated, because you still need that service, or you still need what's on the outside of that, production. And so being able to have working memory and the capacity to do some of these home maintenance projects around our house is important, not only just for my husband and I to know, but then to also pass that on to the next generation. Another goal that I have for this year that I've had since the very beginning is ensuring that I am shopping with the values that I have. And I say this because, okay, so there are absolutely those aspirational kitchens that are out there where like it's 100% organic, all everything, 100% grass-fed meats, all everything. And I truly get and understand that. I'm not saying that in a condescending way. However, I knew that within my personal situation, and likely for a lot of other people, and we may be a couple of steps ahead or behind the other, but still, in that category of, it is definitely more expensive. And yes, you do pay for quality, but like how do you try to strive to get there along a continuum of like good, better, best? And so for me, a really good starting point for a lot of us is you can get a lot of the, the chemicals and the toxic load out of your food just by cooking from scratch, right? So that's like the first area to try to hit on. And then from there, this is where food preservation like really came in, right? Because if I'm paying more of like a premium for these items or buying food, do I have things that reduces the amount of food that I, am wasting while still having meals that are convenient and healthy and nutritious? Yes. Okay. So that's where like canning and dehydrating came into play. But it took me a while because I had to scale, my jars over time, which is absolutely fine, right? And also it's a missed opportunity because the equipment in my kitchen, these are things that like my great-grandmother had, that had already been passed down, to them or across generations and stuff like that. Anyways, I digress on that point. But I share that to say that the more that you begin cooking from scratch, and y'all hear me all the time, every year I say, okay, maybe I'll start buying like at least once or twice a month, I can select some of those organic cuts, things like that. There is still nutritive value even if you're not getting, meat that is 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, all these different things. I will go into this in another kind of video on things, but I have slowly been like bumping that up a little bit more as other areas of because some of our grocery budget was going towards like my canning supplies, like an inventory, right? And so and sales shopping and all that stuff, y'all, is still super like a part of my strategy with how I like move our like, you know, money around to be able to like to pay for some more of these expensive cuts, because sometimes I don't always get this, you know? Anyways, y'all who know. But one thing that I've started to do within the past couple of years is I started shopping at farmers markets. And I was shopping there primarily getting the second. So things that are about to like expire soon, but still are organic, but that's fine for me. I'm getting an organic price. I'm stocking my shelves because people don't know what to do with, you know, about to be ripe, you know, foods. Honey, I can handle that, right? Because I have a canner. And so I've been able to start doing that. Shopping, you know, seasonally really brings that budget kind of in. But then also another thing that has become important to me is understanding, there was a statistic that I was reading that said, like, even if these companies, if they just even lost like 5% of their sales, that would be enough for them to pivot their strategy and not include the crap that they put in American food that they don't in other countries where their regulations and, you know, standards are higher. And so I had tried Azure Standard earlier in the year. Maybe it was during the summer when my schedule was a bit more flexible. I love Azure. Their quality that I got, oh my goodness, that was awesome. I just happened to be in a particular predicament where you have to pick that food up like at that particular time. And I won't be able to, just given like our work schedules, I won't be able to do that. And I know that I could partner with someone to maybe, I don't know, like it was a lot of finagling. And so I don't know if that's going to be the best option for me. Maybe if there's a different drop center, I don't know. So I want to do Azure, but I think I can only do them during the summer, you know, when my schedule's a bit more flexible. I'm not sure if yet, especially now because I am hunting and how I'm able to shop, that I need to do a subscription, right? Where I'm like locked into a baseline of like $100 or more. I don't know. I've never like looked into them, you know, with those like kinds of things or whatever. But one thing that I have found is I absolutely love, and y'all are gonna hear me talk about this a little bit more in the upcoming year, is Farm Match. Farm Match, because you know what? At the end of the day, we have to get back to having a more robust, decentralized food system. And there's this farm that's in Pennsylvania that does a food drop in coolers 1 day a week that I can go to, and I have been going to for the past, oh my goodness, almost 2 months now, and I get my raw milk, raw cream. There's like a bakery that uses simple ingredients like einkorn flour and molasses and just awesome good organic ingredients. And I can just click in my cart. It doesn't have to be crazy. Sometimes my orders are just, you know, $20 a week. That's it. But that makes a difference. That makes a difference. I'm supporting my local economy. There's something that was happening. I didn't even realize this. I also get my eggs from them because most of the year I don't have to buy eggs because I can grab my eggs from Janet's farm or from Crystal. But this is the time of year where I'm like, I'm back to buying eggs. But you know what? I would rather pay because there's higher like choline in duck eggs. I've fallen in love with duck eggs, guinea eggs. Oh my goodness. Like now I'm kind of like bougie when it comes to my eggs. But anyways, so I have started to shop at these places that don't lock me into a subscription and are supporting people that this is their actual, you know, livelihood. And I've really enjoyed doing that. And so I'll leave the link in the description below, that it supports whatever your local food system is, right? It's not like, get your organic meat from this company or organization. No, and that's great. I'm glad they're doing well and more people are flocking to them. And also, don't forget about the farmers and the small businesses and the families that are trying to serve you in your very own community. And so, yeah, I've started to do like a weekly farm order. Like I said, it's not anything that actually is crazy. Sometimes it's just $20. As I'm able to like shift what my budget is looking like, because I still use like cash, y'all, right? So I do stuff like that. Well, you have to pay online for this, but then I don't take out as much cash like for that particular week to account for it. But I've been so satisfied with the quality. Oh yeah, I was talking about eggs because something is happening with like the egg supply. I know, again. And I wasn't privy to this until I went to Aldi for some, you know, for my weekly like Aldi trips or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, why would I be worried about that? Because I just got my duck eggs from this particular farm. Ain't nothing going on their property, right? They're insulated, right? And so that is a part of the word that I think is being said in scenarios like this, is that's a part of like the resiliency, where you're like, how did you avoid that? Well, I'm not even in like that supplier. And it's great because these people personally email you or call you to check on like, hey, how is this? Are you enjoying this? Because that is their business. That is their livelihood. And so it's not something that I was able to do when I first started along this journey. Because again, we really do stick to sinking funds and, you know, a budget for things, y'all. Like, and so if I can shine a light on all of us, no matter where we're located, contributing in some type of capacity to building this resilience in our own communities, y'all, like that is what it's all about. There's this quote that I came across, and it said something like, if health is wealth, community is currency. And I think that that is so true, because when we think about, as we go through hard times, whether it's financial or emotional or spiritual, it is the people that are a part of your community, right? That know your name, that know your face, and your story, that are committed to you and your situation and thriving and going through things in a way that you cannot count on, you know, larger society to do, you know, for you. And so, yeah, little by little, I think seeing the gradations of changes in my kitchen has been awesome. It is certainly not about perfection. It's about progress. And I'm getting there, y'all. I mean, especially with the dough in my freezer. All right, y'all. So I have chatted your ear off enough. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got to stop. I've got to stop blabbing. Oh my goodness. But it's been great catching up with you. I cannot tell you how tickled I always am when I read your comments on videos, ones that I've recently posted or ones that have been posted for years now, because I've just always thought, Cass, you're a little quirky, a little strange, and of course your family loves you, but are you really gonna put this out here on the internet? And y'all let me know, honey, you're fine, you're fine. And so I appreciate that so much. I hope that this year, whether you are stepping into a season of joyfulness or if there is a trial ahead, I want you to know that you can and will make it through. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.